So for the ladies that know me, they know me as JC, so Jeanette Cremor, but most people call me JC. I'm really excited to be here. I love sharing what I know. So being able to give back is one of my values. And so tonight we're going to explore a little bit about creating our new norm. What I'm going to do is share the screen and we'll go through some slides, but have you all got pen and paper handy? Because there's a little bit of fun work to do through tonight. It's not just about all talk, it's about thinking and writing as well. So if you need to grab yourself a pen and paper, duck off as I start sharing the screen. Please ask questions as we go along. I think either put your hand up or in the chat. Does everyone know how to use the features of Zoom? Anyone need to? Yep, so either use the chat, Rochelle will help me make sure that we've got the questions coming through, or just unmute and ask the question is fine by me as well. So everyone ready to go? Yes. So tonight we're going to cover a couple of things. We're going to cover how do we understand everything that's on our plate? You know, I think you'll be surprised when I take you through this process on what you'll discover about how much you actually do have on your plate. We're then going to classify the importance and relevance of that and then plan your week ahead. So this is part of my Eating Your Elephant series, and I share this with clients when they're actually feeling potentially a little bit like this lady. Yeah. So who feels like this sometimes? When not necessarily, not always the dummy, but I've had a bit of a dummy spit recently. So yeah, so sometimes when we go through significant change, and look at our current situation with COVID, that change in itself has affected each of us very differently. Some of us have lost our jobs, some of us have lost clients, some of us are seeking government assistance. And yet I actually know 2 clients that I work with that are thriving. They've actually had growth. And so when we go through change, we all experience some form of grieving, and that can be denial, it can be anger, it can be frustration, all those emotions. And then we get through that cycle of grieving, and then we go, okay, give me back my norm, give me back my business as usual. How can I get a sense of control? How can I get a sense of what really matters? I've experienced this significant event, you know, so how do I get that? Some of us feel overwhelmed, some of us don't know where to start, and some of us just think that, you know, that inner chatter, you know, that voice that's in your head, am I doing the right thing? What will people say about me? Does anyone ever experienced that kind of emotional or feelings after a change that they haven't been able to control? And let's say COVID-19 is one thing that we haven't been able to control. Is there anyone feeling a little bit overwhelmed at the moment, or what other emotion? Just chuck it in the chat. What's coming up? Let's see. Anyone typing anything? Unmuting?
Lack of motivation, you know, lack of trying to get things moving forward, but there's not much happening in my area at the moment.
Yeah, so that's kind of just setting the standard, saying like we all have different experiences. And so tonight I hopefully will give you some tools and techniques that you can use, not just for now, but whenever you're feeling a sense of lack of progress or lack of motivation, or I'm feeling overwhelmed and I don't really know where to go next. So it's not just for this period in your life. You can use it in other moments, because I can guarantee you for one thing, there's going to be change again. It's not going to be our norm all the time. So as I said, this is part of my Eating the Elephant, and I use the elephant that represents your business or your career or your life. It's the thing that I use to represent my goals. How am I going to go about achieving it? How am I going to break it down into pieces that I can eat one piece at a time? Because I don't think I could eat a whole elephant in one bite. And yet sometimes when we are coming back from change, we're going, how can I leap back into my norm? And it isn't just one leap. It is about breaking it down into pieces that you can actually comfortably take on with confidence. And so when I look at the elephant, I look at three things. And strategies is all about the things that we do in our business or our career that talks about the big picture. Where do we want to head? So it's that thinking. It's about where am I going to? What do I want to do? Do I want to have growth in my business? Am I researching my industry at the moment to see what problems my clients are having? So that's kind of all the strategic thinking and shaping what I call your big picture, your roadmap. And then there's a part of the elephant that's called projects. And projects is really about taking your thinking and shaping it in a way that you have pieces of work that will either create new products, might introduce a new process, or it might change an existing policy, or you might want to get rid of something that's no longer serving you. And then when we look at operations, that's really the administration of your practice. It's about producing the goods and services, the day-to-day tasks. And I'll give you an example of the difference between a project and an operation. So projects, give you an example. Okay, let's do this one. A project could be I'm migrating to a new CRM platform. So I might already be on MailChimp and I might be going to ActiveCampaign or Infusionsoft. So that's a project. But operations is actually sending out the monthly newsletter. Do you kind of see the difference on how when you try to got the sense of being overwhelmed, you really need to understand exactly what part of your business you're actively working in at the moment. Is it your strategic thinking, trying to move the elephant forward, trying to shape the elephant? Is it about trying to deliver projects because you're trying to create something new in your business? Or you're trying to resolve a problem? Or you just head down, getting through the day-to-day tasks? Does that make sense to people on when you look at everything you're trying to juggle at the moment? Is it easy or difficult for you to separate where your focus may or may not be at the moment? So we've got a couple of yeses. That's good. At the moment, I feel as if I'm working with a few of my clients, but also my network. We're actually all trying to do strategic thinking and operations at the moment, and we're actually not really doing any project work because we've got no one really to fund it. And so we're trying to pivot, the word pivot, I like to call it adapt. And operations is just getting through, churning the social media posts, ringing up people, how you're going. So I'm finding that we're kind of on a treadmill of operational tasks at the moment, and we actually haven't given ourselves time to think. And one of the most important things we do to create our new norm after a significant change or getting back to what we call our BAU, business as usual, is about investing time in that strategic thinking. So it might not give you cash at the bank today, but when you're coming out of something, if you don't invest in that strategic thinking, you'll be on that treadmill for a lot longer than what you need to be. Does that kind of help and understand? Any questions so far? I'm looking at the chat. Nothing's coming up. Awesome. So, that pen and paper that I got you to go and grab? We are now going to start using it. So look, I have sticky notes everywhere, in my handbag, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in my office. I use sticky notes as a mechanism to break down my elephant all the time. And when I think of something, I'll write it on a sticky note and come and put it on the wall. If I think of someone I have to call, I'll write a sticky note, put on the wall. Now, sticky notes are just a tangible thing. You might use online tools like Asana or Trello or OneNote. It's a communication tool. So whatever works for you, make sure you have something where you can always take your thinking and write it somewhere. That's probably one of the most important things that we can do, is continually unpack our elephant. So continually have somewhere where we can take our thinking so that we're not feeling that overwhelmness inside. We're actually allowing it to get out. Has anyone ever been told by a mentor or a life coach to have a book beside their bed if they're unable to sleep at night? Because it's around about 2 a.m. in the morning, apparently, when we actually get the most creative and we kind of wake up to. So do you wake up and go, oh, and then you're kind of thinking, yeah, I've got someone says, yeah, psychological notebook, and yeah, and Carol does wake up. I truly recommend that if you are someone that has a lot of thoughts but don't know how to unpack them, get a book beside your bed, or at least get sticky notes around your house or in your handbag, even in the car, and and just write what you do. So what we're going to do now is test this a little bit. So I want you to just get your pen and paper and start writing down everything that you think you have on your plate at the moment. I'll give you a couple of minutes, and it can be anything. It could be, geez, I've got to get that recipe off the daycare mum because my child really enjoyed that lunch the other day, or I need to find 5 new clients in the next month, or whatever it is that's on your plate at the moment and you're trying to juggle. Just write it all down. No order, no structure, just write. And that's why I like using sticky notes. It's about writing one thing on one sticky note. So get going. I'll give you about 45 seconds, I think. I should have got some music. Okay, so how are we going? We've been writing. I just want to teach you the process and the technique, and that way then you can go away and practice it every week. So hopefully what I'm going to give you tonight is something that you can practice for the next 28 days, for the next month, 4 weeks, because they say it takes 28 days to create a habit. And hopefully what I can share with you tonight, you practice it for 28 days and see the benefit of it. And so the first thing is to write it all down. So that's good. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to look at what is important and relevant. Now, this can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. I keep it quite simple. When I say value, it's value that the client is willing to pay you some dollars for, or it's the value that your staff see in providing a good service. Or it might be the value exchange you have with a mentor. So important for me equals value. So because important is different to everyone. I could say spending time with my granddaughter is important, and yet someone without a grandchild will say, well, I'd rather go to the cinema. And so it's when you are assessing what's important in everything that you've just written down now, so you've got a list of everything that's on your plate, the first thing you go is, oh, is any of this of value to my business? Is it going to give me time? Is it going to bring me more dollars? Is it going to reduce the cost of something? So you've got to assess what's important and really get clear about that. Now, that's a whole nother session around values and importance, but this technique will help you filter that. And the next thing is relevant, because spending time with my granddaughter today is relevant because I've got the time. She's close by. She's only 16 months old, and I want to build that really nurturing relationship. But when she's 16, she's not going to want to spend every week with me. So it might not be as relevant then. You know what I mean? So relevance for me is about it's appropriate at the current time and circumstance. So everything you have on your list will either have a value or a current combination to it. So it's important and relevant. And when we do this, we only ever look at the next 3 months because we really don't know how important or relevant something's going to be in 12 months' time. Things change, and we know that with COVID. But even if we didn't have COVID, things change in our business. The industry we're in might establish a new directive or a new compliance standard or a new piece of legislation that we actually have to respond to. Or it might be that our clients are no longer coming through the door. So that's changed. What's happened there? So when I look at importance and relevance, have a 3-month lens on that. If that kind of, and then everything else will make sense in a minute. So they're kind of the 3 things that I put a criteria around is importance, relevance, and 3-month view of everything. Now, what you've got on the screen is also some other words. So when you wrote things down, depending on what you would class as value and its current, so importance and relevance, you would put those things in the must continue column. And then you would look at the others and go, well, is that really adding value? And have I done that recently? Have I done that task? Or if I stopped doing that, how would it impact my business? How would it impact my team? And maybe you want to put it in the will stop column. Or maybe you just go, well, it's important, but it's not relevant at the moment. It's not relevant for the next 3 months. So I might put that in the pause column. Or when you look at a few other things you've written down, you go, well, actually, they're great ideas. They actually need some strategic thinking. So they're things I want to do, but I haven't really put a lot of attention or effort into it yet. It's an idea. So if you were able to look at your list at the moment, and that's why I like to use sticky notes as well, or an online tool that allows you to move these things around. If you are able to move the things that you have and put them into the columns, does that help you start filtering on what's important today? Any comments or thoughts? Any more questions around this? Because this is what you end up with when you do it. You'll have sticky notes or thoughts or ideas, actions, activities, project names, whatever the label is that you like to give your work, and you will put it into these columns. Any comments so far? Questions? Carol, I know this works for you. Carol, are you there?
I am. I'm writing.
Oh, are you?
Too busy.
I am. I'm writing down.
Good. Anyone got any comments? Catherine, you said you did this at boarding school. You would write in a journal, is it, or a?
Yeah, I did. For English, I used to do my writing. And I've done it all my life. I've always had a notebook by my bed. It's just one of those things. If I have an idea, I just write it down, and it's it works well. Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, you might not be, and I don't want people to become a list person all of a sudden if that's not who they are. But
I'm definitely a list person.
okay. I've worked with some creative thinkers before, and they're quite what I call spider web thinkers. They think in visual linkage of what they do. And even when I took them through this technique, they went, oh, this has just simplified my business. And I went, yeah, it does. It simplifies this technique, simplifies. So where I got this technique from is I spent 15 years in Queensland government rescuing significant projects, multi-million-dollar projects where government was trying to roll out systems that included massive change for not just the community, but also staff. And one of the things that you get to learn when you are rescuing projects is you have to make very quick decisions around what's important and what's relevant. And I could have had anywhere from 15 staff to 120 staff on my project team. And I would take them through a similar technique for about 2 weeks when I would pick up a project, because I had to make some big decisions quickly. So I couldn't do this alone. So that was the other next thing I want to share with you, is that invite other people into this process with you. When you're feeling a sense of lack of control and you want to get back control, sometimes we only see the trees and not the forest. Is that the right saying? Or the forest, not the trees? And what happens is other people will bring a different lens to the room when you're actually doing this. And when you are putting what's important now, important and relevant, they could challenge that and say, well, really, Jeanette? Is that important? Because I thought you could do that in 6 months' time. Does it really need to happen in the next 3 months? And I go, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. I'll put that in pause. Do you kind of get why having someone else involved in your thinking and working through what's important and relevant might have advantage?
A great idea.
Yeah. Any other questions so far?
Nope, that's good.
Yep. Well done, Joey. So I've got Joey online, and he's saying he also uses multicolour pens. So that, yeah, that's a good idea. So that's why I use sticky notes as well, because there's colour. So yeah, so even if you're using pens, that might relate to you. So so where are we up to with time? I'm a bit mindful of time and what we can get through tonight. So we've put everything down that's on our plate. We've classified it or considered it as must continue, pause, stop, or it needs some strategy because it's still an idea. The next thing we do, because we still have a bit of an overwhelmed list, don't we? Oh, what's Jackie use? She uses big sheets of paper. Yes. And she uses Sharpie pens too. Good on you, Jackie. I'm going up in the spaceship with her because she uses sticky notes, same as me.
I use A3 paper and stars and symbols, and and then I move it into a Trello board.
Yeah, and it's what works for you. And if you've got a virtual team, it's really difficult to do this, but if you have an online mechanism to do this virtually, it's very powerful to get your team, to get them to do their own workload, and then you bring everyone's workload together and then do it. What it can do in your team is actually help others appreciate the work that you've got on your plate, and maybe they can put up their hand and go, Jeanette, I don't think that's important in your role at the moment, but I'd love your assistance over on this project because I really need to get it done in the next 5 days. So there's different ways that you can use this technique. One, it's about getting external lens on your workload and helping them give you their view of what's important and relevant based on your goals and where you're trying to head. It can actually help with team communication. It can actually get teams to be quite honest around their workload rather than saying they're busy. Because when staff say they're busy, you really want them being busy with the things that are important and relevant, not the things that they've been doing every day for the last 5 years because they thought it had to be done because that's what Joey or Mickey or Michelle or whoever told that person when they took over the role. Have you ever been in that situation and you've taken on a role and as part of the induction you go, oh, you have to do this, this and this on this day and in this order. And then what you do, you just become a robot and follow that instruction. Well, this technique will actually open up the things that you can stop doing because it's no longer adding value to your team to actually get either more money in the door or to get better products out the door or to give you back time. So that it also works in that. Drew little pictures in with the job. So I've got Jackie up here. Scrunch it up and bin it. Yes, that's part of getting the job done. Isn't it powerful when we can grab a sticky note and throw it in the bin and say, I've done that job. It's quite powerful, which leads me into the next thing. This is what Carol likes, I think, this 3. The power of 3. In the business world, I challenge you to look for 3 everywhere, and you will be surprised at how often 3 rocks up in your business. Anyway, I'll leave that as a little takeaway that you can look around you and see where 3 is appearing. I use the power of 3 in just about everything that I do, not just in my coaching and accountability programs, but in my workshops, in my own planning. I use it over and over again. The reason why you've now got 3, so we had 6 or more in the must continue column, but I really believe you need to pick 3. So although it's important and relevant today or in the next 3 months, so don't forget I asked you to do the thinking based on a 3-month window, but there's only 3 things I believe that anyone, I don't care how good you are, can actually focus on at one time. And I don't mean at the same time, I said at the one time. And the trick here is out of the things that you've got in your must continue column, what are the 3 things that you're working on now? And they might take 6 weeks to get done. I'm not talking about time frame, but they're the most important out of the important and relevant. And what I do is I move them to above the line. So it's very clear to myself and my team that these are the 3 things that we're working on. So they might be 3 things all out of my workload, or they might be 1 thing out of Hazel's workload, and there might be 1 thing out of Carol's workload, and there might be 1 thing out of Joey's workload. But at least then the team has a visual and a committed attention to what's important for the team. So once again, you can use this individually for yourself, or can use this technique for the team. And 3 is just a number that I think is manageable. And if I get to Jackie's point about throwing it in the bin, when one of those sticky notes, so whatever you've labeled your sticky notes, is done, only then can you move something from below the line to above the line. So you always have 3 above the line, never any more than 3. But when you're finished one and you scrunch up the sticky note or you put complete on the Asana as a completed task or something, then move something from below the line to the top line. Yeah, try that, Hazel. I think that will work. It's quite powerful for the team as well, because if you set some parameters for the team to do their own look, people will call this prioritization. I really struggle with prioritization because prioritization for some people means ranking. You've got 20 things to do, put them in a priority list of 1 to 20. I call BS on that. I don't think that is ever fair. And the reason why I call BS on that, I worked in universities for many years, and there was always a competition for budget. And they go, rank the most important projects 1 to 20. And I went, no, stop. Let's do value-based importance and ranking, And Have you read The Power of Three by Norman Drummond? No, I won't. I haven't, Catherine, so I will reference that. Thank you. So Catherine just said there's a book called The Power of Three. Oh, that's interesting. I'll write that down. I didn't even know there was such a thing, and I believe in it. So hopefully Norman can share his insights with me, and I can get something else out of that. Thank you, Catherine. Where was I? Yeah, so I don't believe in a prioritization list, and that's why you will never see me go prioritize your workload. I'll go, no, pick 3 that's important and relevant now. And when you've done 1, bring another thing up. So you'll always have 3. Does that kind of make sense?
That's great.
Anyone got any column? Hazel, how do you think that might work for your team if you want to unmute?
I think it's great actually, because I find, we sometimes have a lot. We use Asana, and I find it very overwhelming personally as a tool. So I actually like this method. I've started brain dumping everything I've got in my head and my action list recently. So this is quite handy to just focus on 3 things rather than trying to do 50 all at once, so I like it.
And you might have 50 in your must continue column, and that's okay. But it's about giving yourself permission only to look at 3.
Yeah, I think it's important. You can't do more than that anyway, really.
No. Carol, how have you found this working for you? Because I know that you kind of discovered this in December last year when we worked together.
I think it saved a lot of time and energy, because as soon as I start to get away from my 3, I think, no, get back and focus on the 3. And look, sometimes things become, all of a sudden they become more urgent, and then you have to make a choice, but really only trying to keep 3 in mind, because any more than that and my mind just goes all over the place.
Yeah, well done. Yeah. And so practices, and it's like I said, do this regularly, and just see how powerful it can be. I can guarantee you, if you do this, you will have a different opinion around how much you can achieve when you follow this method. So what we're going to talk to, so that's kind of about decluttering, or taking all those juggling balls, that sense of overwhelmness, and structuring them in a way that you can actually see everything that you or your team have on their plate at the moment. The next little thing I want to share with you is about then how to apply that in real life, because that's really a theoretical planning technique. It works, and I challenge you to practice it and come back to me on how well you have or haven't implemented it. But this is really, I think, where people are at the moment. When we come out of a significant event, what we're looking for is a pattern. We're looking for some normality. And when people say normal or business as usual, it's really about structure. And although people that like to have, things done spur of the moment, when you really dig deep with these people, they still love structure, because structure gives people safety and security. And I think, Hazel, you wrote maybe a recent article around structure, or it might have been a couple of months ago. I read an article on LinkedIn where you talked about structure. I'm sure it was you. And I totally believe that when you create a sense of routine or pattern in your life that gives you flexibility, subconsciously that gives you a sense of security and safety. So this is what I call the weekly focus of a rolling 3-month view. So once again, I always talk about 3 months, and in the whole Eat Your Elephant series, we do the big picture thinking. But when we peel it down to how to roll things out and get momentum in your business, it's about that 3-month view. So you won't ever get me to get you to commit to anything past 3 months, because it's about having that methodical plan, action review, and that happens every 3 months. But reality is real, and so this is the weekly focus. And I just want to use a tool that I don't know if you've heard of Nikki Fogden-Moore before, but she's a vitality coach and athlete, works with executives, speaks her own truth. She walks the talk. She talks about her mojo. You can follow her. I have a couple of her books. I know her quite well. And when she taught us this technique, it must be 7 years ago now, I totally believe in it, because what it helps me do when I look at my week, I could guarantee you that 90% of my time was in the grey, and I had 10% in friends and family, and I had none in the other 3, me time, health, and giving back. So has anyone ever seen this type of definition of your vitality wheel? So for every human, man, woman, young, old, able, disabled, whatever, who we are as an individual, this is what her 6 pillars of ultimate vitality is. And so this is my reference. I'm not saying it's the only reference. There are many other great speakers and life coaches around. Use the tool that's right for you. Use the framework. But my challenge is that when we look at our week, if we're not spending time in each one of those pillars, we get to burn out very quickly. We don't even get to our end of our 3 months. So if you look even at the last COVID period, I think I've been in working out of the home office with very, very little contact with clients face to face, I think since about February. It's a long bloody time not to be out there and having physical interaction. And I know we all love Brady Bunch, and we're on the screen at the moment, Brady Bunch, we all got our own little window. But having the wheel of where we put our time, and one of the tips that she gave me, and I'll leave this with you, is 1% of our day is 14 minutes. So if you, in your planning your week, are unable to give yourself 1%, which is 14 minutes, you probably really need to look at yourself. And that's a harsh thing to say. But I found, and she calls it the 1% club, I found that when I followed that 1% club rule, it changed the way that I looked at my time. It really did. And so now every Sunday, I spend 30 minutes and I map my week out. Where am I spending my time? And I start with my non-negotiables. And my non-negotiables will be time with my daughter and granddaughter. They'll be reading time for me. I love to read. I love to learn. So when I put reading, it means I might be listening to a podcast. It might be reading an article or a book. And then I lock out regular interactions, the things that I do frequently. It might be my client check-in every Tuesday morning. It might be I spend 30 minutes every week reaching out to new clients, or it might be thinking and project work. But just think of that. So the next thing is, once again, do you have, now this is scanned copy, Officeworks, Kmart, Anywhere. I really love the rip-off weekly planners. I use online though, because I have a virtual assistant that needs to know what my calendar looks like, and she doesn't, because she reminds me when I'm actually not putting myself in the me time.
Mine's really pretty.
Yours very pretty. I wonder if it's like that. So I don't know if you guys have got a tear off sheet, but these are like $3 or $5 at Officeworks and Kmart. I did this with a family family friend couple. They were struggling with communication, and I got them to do this on the fridge. They actually did every Sunday. They sat down and did a weekly planner together, and within the 4 weeks, so that habit, communication opened up and they actually found more time in their week that they could do the things that they love together. Monthly planner, a month at a time. If you can do 4 weeks at a time, that's brilliant. But getting to the pattern, my message is really about getting to the routine and the pattern every week to look at your week or your month. Now, this is a mock-up of what it may look like. I use an online version, but this is just something that you might look. And what it is, it's just blocking things in your week that's important. So you might volunteer at the kids' school, and you might do every Thursday is my time with the school, and I'm not giving that up. That's my non-negotiable. Sport. I think Hazel said that she had training tonight with her little one, but that might be something that you go, no, I'm going to leave work early. I am going to pick my child up from daycare or after school care, and I'm going to spend time on the sidelines in the freezing cold, cheering them on. That's a non-negotiable. So my tip is block out your non-negotiables first. And your non-negotiables could be your time. And I would encourage you to put your time. So things like, for me, I've got a bath, reading, yoga. Now, I don't do yoga. I'll let you know, this body does not do yoga. But apparently it's good for us. So, so you think by blocking that out, and then where in the white spaces, that's where you can put your project work and your thinking time. So on a Wednesday now, I might spend, and I really recommend doing project and thinking time in no longer than 90-minute blocks in your day. So if you've got a lot of work to get done in your project, break it up into 90-minute blocks, because we actually can get quite burnt out or distracted when we're focusing on the one thing in the one day. Or meetings. Have meetings in 10, 20 and 15 minutes. Not this 30, 60-minute BS that our defaults on our calendars set, because it actually is artificially sucking time out of our week. We create a habit, and we create a habit based on default. So we send that meeting calendar invite, and it either defaults to 30 or 60 minutes, and we think we have to fill it. I challenge you to set 10, 20 or 50-minute meetings and see how you go. So does that kind of make sense on spending time every Sunday, or as Catherine said, once a month for her, and blocking out what's important?
Yep. It's good.
Has anyone else ever done this type of thing before? No, got nothing.
That's interesting. Jackie's just saying that teleconferences have extended in time. I do a lot of voluntary work, and I find that it's cut down because there's none of this being late or mucking around, and you can get off because you just leave the meeting.
Yeah. So you've had a positive impact of virtual things, whereas Jackie's had the opposite experience. Do you think, Jackie, in your situation, do you think people might be trying to get more connection or emotional, add more people to present? Oh, you make me laugh. Because I've listened in on a couple of meetings that I don't host. I'm there to observe a team performance. And I find at the moment that they really don't focus on work at all. They're really trying to find that connection, that emotional value in one another, in their relationship. They're feeling very alone and isolated. So when they get together as a team, they just kind of suck up the first 60 minutes of getting to know one another again. And they're not focused on work. And I think that's just the time we're in. So hopefully, Jackie, you can get back to, maybe that's some of your norm. That might be what you want to create in your new norm, is that you might set an expectation to people that these are now the ground rules, and that you will tap out if they go any longer, or put your agenda item first because you're going to leave the virtual meeting when your agenda item's done, and let them carry on. So there's only one thing that each of us have exactly the same. everyone in the world, and that's time. We all have 24 hours in a day. So no matter if you're a politician, a celebrity, a nurse, a doctor, a teacher, a mum, coach, I'm not running them, so I have no control. I know it's tough. I'll give you some tips offline, Jackie. So think about how you want to spend your week and how you're going to get your must continue, those 3 things that you've decided with yourself or your team, and how you're going to map them out in your week to get them done, when you've also got to overlay these non-negotiables, which is things in your vitality wheel of family, friends, contribution, me time. Because if we focus just on the work, and I'll just quickly go back. If we focus directly just in this grey quadrant, which is our work, career, wealth, we actually don't have success. Tell me anyone that can live and breathe that grey area and come out what their then maybe their definition of success is that I actually don't have friends. Maybe that's okay. That's their definition, it's not mine. Or they might be, they might die of cancer at 30 because they've smoked their way through stress. I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking. But listening to Nikki about 7 years ago, I really believe that when we plan our week, even as a business owner, this is important. And what it does do, it gives you back time. And that came from one of the people I'm working with in Sydney at the moment, Paula. She's a CFO, and she said, Jeanette, this has given her back 20 hours a month that she can now put elsewhere about, getting more profit into her business. So, So anyway, do that for the next 4 weeks and see how you go.
Wow, that's great.
So in summing up, the 3 things to create your new norm or your new business as usual. So this happens every time you go through some significant event, or it might be that you're not coping. Remind yourself, are you following these techniques? If not, go back and try and use them. So spend 30 minutes every Sunday mapping your week ahead. You must set time aside for yourself, and then review what works and what doesn't, and make a change next week. Because what you thought was important and blocking out time last week, it might not have worked. You might have had to juggle things around. So it's not that it's wrong, it just didn't work. And you need to continually review and adjust your week, because sometimes though must continue might have a higher influence in the grey section, which is work and time. So you might need to put more time into your career or work this week, and you might have to let go of some time in another part of that vitality wheel. But it's not that you don't do it, it's just less time. So rather than me spending 2 hours in a bath, I might need to spend just 1 hour in a bath on a Monday night because I need to do an extra hour project work or something. So that's really the pattern and the tools and the tips, and it can be applied to yourself, your team. And I do have a little giveaway or special for you guys. So if you go to my website and on the resources page, you will see a download checklist that you can print off, and it's just a quick reminder that you might want to put on your desk. You don't need to give me your details for that. It's a free download resource. But also for this group, the Small Business Women Australia, I do have an exclusive 10 spots only, so only 10 people, and it's only for the people that are part of this community or who have attended tonight. Email me. It's a 3-month group mentoring. We have 6 90-minute sessions. Normally it's $1,500, but for you guys, it's only $750. So if you want to know more information, send me an email and I'll send you the information, or Rochelle will send it out with her community. So I just thought I wanted to give you back because you took time out tonight, and so hopefully that is of interest, and let me know. So any questions or comments before we time out? What have we got coming through as a question? Yes. So good tip, Joey. So she's saying, reward yourself when you finish your Sunday planning. Absolutely. And the reward I love, and this is my reward, I love sitting down, music, book, and a candle and a glass of wine. I don't know, it's the simple things in life I'm grateful for at the moment, but yeah, good tip, Joey.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Jeanette. I know that I've got to pick my 3 things which I'm going to focus on. I'm very guilty of focusing or trying to focus on 10 things at a time, as I'm sure most of us are. So focusing on the 3, and I think definitely doing the 90-minute blocks, because you know I sit at my desk and the laptop all day, and I think definitely working in those 90-minute blocks is I think that's going to help. I feel energized after all that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So
you want to put another 90 minutes in.
yeah, no, that's right. So look, if anyone just wants to email me as well and let me know how their 4 weeks has gone, if they're going to do this every week, it'd be really good to hear how you've gone after a month. So I wouldn't mind. Maybe somehow I'll work out with Rochelle how to communicate to you guys in a month's time to see how you've gone.
I think, and definitely feel free to post in the group for everyone that's attended, because that gets people talking, and then we'll send out the recording of the video and they can watch it and get the tips. So please feel free to post in the group any updates that you're doing. We'll know what you're talking about, and then you guys can jump on and comment and things like that. So please feel free to be active in the group and post any questions. Jeanette's in the group, so I'm sure tag her, or or I'll see it, and then and then we can get your questions answered. Even send us photos of your your post-it notes or anything like that. That's what the group's there for. So that'll be great.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you. Thanks everyone, and thanks everyone for being part of Small Business Women Australia. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night, Josie.
Good night.